was.
Sheriff? All right, thank you. All right, looks like we have a 16-point agenda.
I'll move to approve.
All right, motion by Cosgrove. I'll second. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Item number 4, approve minutes of the August 13th, 2021 LEJC meeting.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Right, motion by Severson, second by Cosgrove. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. We have our minutes approved. Item number 5, Partners for Prevention Coalition discussion and possible approval of an MOU. I can hand that off to Betsy and Sheriff Porter.
Morning, everybody. Sheriff Porter, would you like to initiate with the MOU?
Yes, and I believe Billy is on his way over to sign as well, but you know, I've reviewed the MOU and we discussed it at the last meeting, and I think had we not had such a congested agenda in the last meeting, maybe we might have signed it in the middle of that meeting. But I guess at this point, I'm happy to sign the agenda or sign the MOU now, and not sure if Billy's on his way back. Yes, he is. He's right here. So yeah, I'm happy to sign it, and I know Billy is as well. So
Sheriff Porter, can you just quickly review what the MOU says?
Yeah, I could share my screen if.
yeah.
I know. I think
So one thing I want to point out in here that we're all clear on is under the now therefore 1 and 2, that's pretty obvious. Number 3, citations will be issued to the server at the retail outlets who illegally sell alcohol to the minors participating in the checks. So that one, I want to make sure that we're good with that.
Yep, that's all. And then she's talking about item 3 here. Citations will be issued to the server at retail outlets who illegally sell alcohol to the minors. Yep.
So no warnings. It's going to be okay. So that's pretty basic.
No
and
warnings, never. I mean, I know we've been giving warnings these last few, and we have discussed that we're going to start issuing citations. I mean,
yeah, and I'm not gonna say never a warning. It might be a case by case thing, but we want to start having a penalty,
yeah,
you know, associated with the checks.
So I think we, you know, and when we discussed in the last meeting, we're ready to move forward with, you know, issuing citations to these places that we've done the compliance checks for in the last few, you know, rounds. And we feel that, you know, warnings, they've gotten warnings now. Now it's time to step it up. I almost wonder though, maybe if there shouldn't be. I certainly want to show the level of enforcement here, but I also wonder maybe if there shouldn't be a, you know, as Billy said, on a case by case basis, if we're dealing with somebody who's new to the job, or a new establishment, I think in some cases warnings are still a useful tool.
Sheriff Porter, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So a written warning still goes in the record, correct? Or no? Like
Yes,
you know that a written warning was given, so that if you do it again, you know they've already been given a warning, and then a citation is appropriate. Yeah,
when we give written warnings, there's a record of that.
So maybe that's the specific. What we need is a specific. If they get a warning, it's going to be a written one and not just a verbal one, so that there is a record of it.
keep in mind, we do send out warning letters before the checks happen. So people are aware of that.
That's true. Yeah.
But I think we're all on the same page where we are prepared as law enforcement. We're prepared to issue citations on these checks.
Okay, this is great. Great, excellent.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm still comfortable signing
Okay,
with the understanding that there may be instances that we issue a warning. As Billy said, maybe a new establishment or, you know, not, I guess not necessarily newer employees, but new establishments and stuff like that.
okay,
But I'm still comfortable signing.
okay. Will you make sure this one looks just like the one you're signing? I mean, I would, there would be different versions of it. So I can resend this if that would, it was the most recent one I sent to you yesterday.
Yes, it appears to be the one I'm signing.
Okay,
So,
great,
and
that's great.
Billy just signed, for the people who couldn't see that, and I will sign right now.
That's great. I think the only other thing is, and some of these steps in the process of changing those local conditions will take, we know these things will take time, but we recognize that this signature is happening within a committee, but the community being on board and raising awareness and increasing their engagement is important as well as we work on shifting. So we'd like to offer a draft copy of a resolution that would be adopted by the county board. Now, I don't know, you know, what we could do at this meeting, but I do have a copy of that draft. Maybe this isn't the time to talk about it, but it would be taking this memorandum one step further to raise awareness in the county. So, and the other is the enforcement of Wisconsin social host law. So this is a lot, and I know you have a big agenda, but we want to continue to partner and collaborate. And so if we need to come to subsequent meetings, we'll do that.
I think I'll refer to Chairman Luck on whether or not, how far we'll discuss on this today. I'm certainly open to it. I'm just not sure if it fits the agenda item.
Right. I mean, we have it described as Partners for Prevention Coalition discussion and then possible approval on MOU. I guess what would probably be the most helpful for us is if you want to provide us with the resolution language today, and so we can look at it and perhaps share it with our corporation counsel to get his reaction, and then come to a next meeting where we could then talk about approving that and sending it on to the Richland County Board as in whole.
So here's.
Does that seem reasonable or?
Sure, that's great. I'm sharing it right now. There's a number of whereases, and then the final resolution is that they agree to collaborate with a biannual alcohol age compliance checks. Now, April is Alcohol Awareness Month. That would be a good time to, you know, it's quite a ways off, but doing it in September, I know it may feel kind of rushed, but you can see all of the reasons why we would want to do them, including the data and the consequences of not doing anything about this. So you can review it there, and I could definitely share it with corporate counsel as well.
Do you want, so we have been actually doing a lot of awareness months where we've recognized different particular organizations and events. So, I mean, we could potentially do this in April. The resolution could be timed to go with that, but we could do the resolution ahead of time, but then also talk about recognizing Alcohol Awareness Month when the time comes as well.
Okay.
So what would be your preference, to have this on board ahead of time, or to do it all as once, kind of as a kind of bigger event or bigger?
Well, I would defer to the committee, and it's important in communities that people are ready to change as well. And so if you think this would be the right time, that I would defer to you all. Like, you're going to sign the MOU, and that's terrific and wonderful. We will be doing the checks, you know, to provide that education and the information as rationale for doing the checks is important. So my preference, my personal preference, I'm coordinator of the Drug-Free Communities Grant, is to do it as soon as possible, but that this is got to be a joint decision here, you know, as far as when something like this gets publicized, because this will go in the paper then.
Right. Committee members, does anyone else have any thoughts on, is this something we want to do today, or do we want to have time to look this over, send it to Corp Council, and then talk about it again next month?
Yeah,
Or do you want to,
I don't necessarily think we can do it today because it's not an action item on the agenda. But
right,
I would agree that pushing it through sooner than later is fine, and then we can revisit with rules and resolutions on drafting something for Alcohol Awareness Month when April comes around.
okay, yep.
And I'm in support of whatever you guys decide today. I think this is a great deal. So
Okay, good. All right, so yeah, let's do that. If you can send it, let's see if you can send it to, I probably can send it to me, and I can send it to Corp Council, or if you want to send it directly to Corporation Council, that's fine as well. But it might be easier if it comes from one of us to just have him explain to him what we want to do and have him look it over, and then we'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay, sounds good. The only other thing that was brought up at last meeting was the social host law. I'm not sure that, because it wasn't an action item, if there's any discussion on that. You want to have any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, is there the potential that we want to have some kind of language with an MOU similar to what you just did for the
Okay.
establishment checks? I don't know, Sheriff Porter, what do you think about the social hosting? I mean, I think that one's a little.
And it, just as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking along the same thing, as I almost wonder if that maybe shouldn't have been or should be in the future incorporated in the same MOU. Just that we will, you know, as another item that, you know, that we will enforce the social host laws and yeah, just add that on, or maybe a separate MOU in itself.
So I guess what I would, just from that previous discussion, I think that you might want to think pretty clearly about, you know, defining the warning, like what's the way you're going to go about issuing or giving warnings before you proceed to actually issuing citations. I mean, warnings might be a little harder in this because this might be a graduate, you know, at graduation time, these may be parents that just do it one time a year. They should never do it. So a warning might not be as effective because they probably maybe wouldn't do it again anyway. But so I don't know. I think that's something you guys should think about and maybe work with Betsy to come up with language that everyone is comfortable with as far as the warnings go.
Yeah, I think the only other thing is, and I'm working with a lot of teenagers, and so I hear a lot of things. And then we've had Mary Collins Johnsrud do some work with the DA's office. And so it appears like there is a lack of communication. If a law enforcement officer does go to private property, then that information doesn't appear to be getting back to the DA's office, or there isn't any, because the story is that last year during the pandemic, there were two big, large parties that were pretty well, a lot of teenagers knew about them. And granted, it could possibly be true that the parents were not aware, they weren't home. And then Mary had a conversation with the DA's office, and they knew nothing about these. And whether or not, you know, I'm getting the information from the teenagers, they're saying that law enforcement did go, but there weren't any warnings or citations. So that is just, you know, I'm just giving the evidence that I'm getting from teenagers. But if we could have good communication between what is reported from, you know, what's happening with the teens and the law enforcement to the DA's office, so it gets noted.
And I guess to talk on that, I would have a hard time believing if my deputies responded to a large underage drinking party that there would have been no enforcement action taken. You know,
Yeah.
not even a warning. So that I would find hard to believe. I do want to kind of just talk a little bit more on with, you know, us, but Billy and I putting our heads together on this and working with Partners for Prevention, that maybe we want to extend an invite to the district attorney's office to come to the table and be on board with that as well.
Excellent.
So this is a district attorney. I'd also note that if there are no citations given, even warnings don't get to our office. What happens if there are citations and then there is a not guilty to those citations, or someone doesn't show up in court on those citations, then our office doesn't see them at all. We're not a investigative agency. So essentially, that doesn't bubble to our office unless there are citations and unless there are not guilties that are entered on those citations. That doesn't often happen. My experience has been either those just get paid, you know, they'll take the lumps on their ticket, or they don't show up at court, so they just get defaulted. So I may not hear about big parties because my part of that is actually very small and only gets to me at the tail end. That's not to say that we shouldn't be communicating, but that's just kind of the process as to how that information gets to us. I'd also just say, I know that we've talked about this, the hosting. One problem there has been, and it's a problem in the law, is that quite often, I think it was Melissa said that, you know, sometimes these are parents and they just have their graduation party one time a year or something like that. Often what we have is we have all the parents there and their kids come, their kids drink. It is permissible for kids to drink in the presence of their parents. And so the parents can't be issued citations because there's been nothing illegal. The kids can't get citations because there's nothing illegal. I think there's a problem with the law that says, I believe that the law should say, it says now that you can consume alcohol in the presence of your parents. I think it also should continue that you cannot be intoxicated outside of the presence of your parents, because what we find is we might have a group, parents are there, it's graduation, it's a great time, the kids are there, but then the kids get hammered and they go to the next person's party. And it is not presently unlawful for these kids to go someplace else. So I think that's just a problem right off the bat. That's a problem with the law, though. So they can certainly get underage citations when they go someplace else. But in my view, driving from one party to another is definitely a problem with respect to drunk driving and those kind of things.
Thank you. That's helpful to get your perspective on how you interact with these cases.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
All right, so I think we need to keep talking about this. And so as long as you're willing to keep coming to our meetings and to keep having these discussions, I think we can keep moving forward, probably one step at a, I mean, maybe it would be nice to kind of do things in one fell swoop, but on the other hand, I think it's good to have these in-depth discussions on each issue as we get to them. So I don't think it's a bad thing to keep having you come back so we can continue these discussions.
Right, I'm happy to come back, and I thank you for having the youth last time. It's their community and their future, and we all know that these drugs of initiation, yes, we want our meth problem to go down, but we also recognize that 95% of meth users say they started with alcohol, tobacco, marijuana. So if we can get these things upstream, I think we'll have a greater impact on the rate of substance use in the county.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions for Betsy before we move on to the next item? All right, well, thank you for your time today, and we will look forward to seeing you at the next meeting then. And go ahead and you can go ahead and send that that resolution to me, and I will get it forwarded to the committee and the Corporation Council.
Thank you.
All right. All right, item number 6, coroner updates. Do we have anything from Jim today?
I do not have anything from Jim today.
Clerk of Court updates. Ms. Kleist, I see you are here. I think you're muted or you're not coming through. I still can't hear you.
You talking to me, Melissa?
No, I was talking to Stacy. It says she's not muted, but we can't hear her. At least I can't hear her. Can anyone else hear her?
I can't hear
No.
on my end.
Oh, you could hear her? Oh,
No, she's not coming through, Melissa.
yeah, I didn't think so. I think she's gonna call in. Oh, technology,
Like a game of charades.
right?
Casey, you could draw those signs with the marker like they do on Facebook posts.
Right. I think probate left. Is that true? I think Devin was on, but she had to leave. So I don't think we can do probate at the moment. So we'll give her a second before we move on to. She's calling.
We also had Dan on for a second, and I see he's gone again.
Well, I think he might be in Clint's office.
Yeah,
Under,
I think he's under Clinton.
Okay.
he just doesn't have his camera on. At least I think so. But without his camera on, I don't know. Yeah. Mr. McGuire, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So Carrie, if you need to leave, we do have a quorum with Mr. McGuire present.
All right, that would be good. If I could stay on and listen though for a little bit, but
That's up to you, but as long as, Mr. McGuire, you're going to be able to stay for the whole meeting, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, good. So because Dave isn't here today, it's Chad and Carrie and me and you, but Carrie needs to leave, so I need so that means we need to have 3 stay on for a quorum. So as long as you're going to stay, we're good to go. So thank you, Carrie, for hanging in there.
yep. If you still need me at all for anything, I'm available by phone. So,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
all right, but
All right, Stacy, do we have you on the phone?
Yes, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. As I was looking at this report this morning, and I kind of wanted to dig up some jury information about you guys, because you're probably going to look at, we have seen where we're at with the jury trial expense for this year. If you look at page 4, handwritten page 4 of the expenditure guideline, you can see that I'm already pretty much maxed out at jury trial expense. And, we've had a flurry of jury trial activity, so, I knew that we'd have to be pushing that mark. So right now, at this point in the year, we still have 13 trials on the calendar from now till year end, 11 of them with Judge Sharp, 2 of them with Judge Root. Most likely, most of those, or a majority of those, I think probably won't happen, but some will. Just looking at stats for the given year, it's a little bit unusual because we often have jury trials that are scheduled that don't happen, but this year we actually have a lot of jury trials happening. I think a lot of it is the post-COVID and trials that were actually going to happen last year that got postponed, and so it all kind of snowballed. So as far as what was scheduled this year, to give you an idea of the fact that things really do get scheduled and then most of them taken off, but some go. We had 47 that were scheduled but have been canceled. And that's because there was a resolution in those cases. In the cases that were criminal in nature, the defendants changed their pleas and have been sentenced. Most of the court that we do day to day is matters that are other than jury trials. We have court action nearly every day, but jury trials, of course, are a right, and people often ask for them, and then through life of their case, they reach an agreement with the prosecution after, seeing the discovery and finding out that it's not in their best interest to go to trial. So of the 47 were canceled, 5 have actually been held. So $10,000, 5 trials, that might seem like, wow, but just for an example, recently we had a trial that during it, after the state's witness testified, there was a motion made by counsel to the court, and actually the defendant changed his plea, and he pled during the trial, though he didn't plead as he was originally charged. But that one-day event, the jury expense alone was around $1,000, just paying the jurors. That's not paying the bailiffs or any of the other things that go along with that. So when we have a trial that's a couple days, you can see how this racks up. So 2018, 2019, and 2020, 3 years total, we had 6 trials. So when I budget each year, I look at statistics, and I typically look at least 3 years back for trends. And in the last even 10 years, it's typical for us to have 1 or 2 trials a year. So I don't want to be seen as somebody who's padding my budget, and maybe 10, 14 years ago, I was budgeting $20,000 for jury trials, and we were pushing that number. But we also were having like 10 or more trials a year. So I've cut back the jury line to be realistic with our expenses, and now this year we're going to see more jury trial action and more expense. So as to what I'm going to do to make sure that I don't spend any more than possible, some of the nice frills that we've been providing for jurors, because jurors are only paid $16 plus mileage, and we already have an issue with people not showing up for jury duty. So I'll get to that. So for the people that are showing up, we try to really make them feel welcome, make sure they're comfortable. Some of the trials that we had first this year were not with Judge Sharp. They were with judges from outside the county who did things a little bit different. In Vernon County, they provide a daily, I don't know if you'd say stipend, per diem, whatever, to jurors, so that jurors have money to go out and buy a meal. And I think it's like $7 or $8. So we decided that with COVID going, and we don't want people to be coming in and out of the building and mixing around any more than they need to, we would have been providing meals during lunchtime. That's something that we didn't used to do. We only would provide meals during deliberation. So, being that's not our historical practice to do it that way, and we're already maxed on our budget, we probably will only be providing the little snacks that we've already purchased, candy. And I like to provide a non-sugar option as well, so probably I'm going to go buy some string cheese or something, because if you have anybody who's diabetic, candy's not an option, obviously. So at any rate, we will try to keep it as lean as possible. We are going to go over on the jury budget if we have even just one more trial this year, which I'm sure we will. So on the point of the no-shows, we've had a serious problem with that this year. There's various factors in it. For the people who are working, I am finding that they're working for employers that are very short-staffed, and this has been coming up multiple times. And so I don't know if the employers say, no, you can't go to jury duty, or if the employees are afraid to ask. But I do know that afterwards, what we find with no-shows is they'll often be very apologetic, but then when the judge says, well, you've got to show up for the next trial, then they're contacting us all worked up saying, my employer is short-staffed, and I work at a nursing home, I work at the hospital, particularly the healthcare ones, and they have been told they can't take time off, and that there's no one to cover their shift. I think they take their chances and they just don't show up for jury. But then you have people that would have blown us off regardless. Some people just simply don't show up for jury, and we have to get after them. The judge has asked the sheriff, Sheriff Porter, even before he was the sheriff, he was a juror in one of our panels, and we had to kind of single him out from the gallery and say, hey, Clay, could you help us out? We got a bunch of no-shows. So that's kind of when, about a couple, 3 trials back, we started this, but so far it hasn't made a difference yet. We still have about, each time when we think we're going to have about 45 people or so show up or less, we have 10 no-shows. I had been summoning less people, which is also a way that I try to control costs. I try to really maximize the jury resources, and when I summons like 52 to 55 people, I know that I'm going to lose maybe 20% of them due to deferment requests and excusals prior to trial, and that will bring me into like the mid-30s or so when we do jury selection. That used to work out just fine. So now what's happening is that if I use that same number and then we have 10 no-shows, I'm not getting enough people there to start jury selection, and it's not just the start of jury selection, it's when we get to the point of the strikes. So, interesting process. You should stop by sometime. I don't want to bore you with the details, but it's a dance that we do every time, and I've been at this for a while. So I've tried a number of things, and having that much unpredictability at the start of a trial is not good. It's not good for the court, not good for the trial participants. Eventually it's going to lead to us having to send the sheriff out and just pull people off the street, which is not a popular move. And me as an elected official, it's not a move that I want my name to. So we're trying to do everything to avoid that. So any positive, any PR that you can do with your friends and family here, anybody talking about jury duty, and employers in the area too, whatever they can do to make it so that people show up. It really does have a lot of fallout when they don't. So that's my soapbox about jury. What questions do you have?
I just have a question. I think I actually saw something in the newspaper, but have we done anything, like any advertising to let employers know that it isn't an option? I mean, the people that are getting summoned don't have a choice, and there is legal ramifications if they don't show up.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so the judge recently did a newspaper. I've recently done, within the past few months, I've done radio. I'm going to ask Ron Fruit for a morning show again. I know he talked about he'd like to have me on more often and talk about the circuit court, because there are so many facets that we can talk about. September is Juror Appreciation Month, so I am putting together some stuff now, no cost PR, of course, and a journalism background is helpful for that, because I know how to do that, so we don't have to incur any cost. And the employer thing, though, I don't know, because one of the recent employers that wrote to me manages a private nursing home, and they were the one that made the request for the juror. The request comes to me. The judge gives me the authority to decide what we're going to do with them, and I'm flexible with people. But I let this person know, tell your employee that yes, we will excuse them or defer them to a later date, but I want you to know the judge would not take this, he would not be so flexible. If this were a county where the judge decides the deferrals and excusals, judges don't like it when employers write to them and ask for people to get off jury duty. And this is a respectable place, a respectable manager. And they just said, you know, I'm too low staffed, and the hospital's done it too, more than once this year. So,
and it is true. It's not like they're exaggerating. They are desperately short-staffed.
No, they are short-staffed. But those are the big ones, is the healthcare facilities. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that, Melissa, but I guess that's why we have to count on those who can do jury duty to show up. But again, it is disappointing when we are willing to work with people. If we just have to know. I got to know before that trial, do I need to get some more jurors in here? Because the last thing we want is that expense that first day, $1,000, and then we can't do the trial. Right. That's really a waste of resources. And it's making it difficult for me to manage. So as a result, I'm summoning more people than what I feel that we need to be summoning. So then what happens is we get more people in there than we need. People feel like their time was wasted because they're not part of the core part of the jury selection process. Again, there's stats on this. We do exit questionnaires with every juror after every trial. And so we know that when they feel like they weren't utilized during the jury selection process, their satisfaction of the process is lower, and in time that results in people having a very negative opinion of jury duty in the court system because it's their only exposure often to the justice system.
All right, well, thank you for that update. Does anyone else have any questions?
Oh, and I'd just like to note one other thing before you move on. Not that the clerk of court doesn't exist to bring revenue in. That's just one part of our duty is to collect the fines, fees, and costs for the court. But we're about $60,000 ahead of county monies where we were last year at this.
I saw that.
I think that's significant, and it would be awesome if it were noted, because the fact that if we exceed our expenditures, which as I've explained, we have many that we can't control, they will be offset by the incredible job that we do with collections. And yes, I'm patting myself on the back a little bit with that. Yesterday I was part of a financial meeting. I'm one of the clerks of court in the state that several years ago was named to the state collections committee and the financial rewrite for all clerks of court. And so I'm part of the training that happens with clerks throughout the state on financial matters and collections. And so I've learned from some of the best over the years, and I have worked with counties, some of the large counties down in southeast Wisconsin, like Ozaukee and Washington, and also Dane County. I'm one of the few small county clerks on the committee, and initially was the only small county clerk on the committee when I was named to it years ago. So not everybody in our area does what we do with collections, and I guess I was reminded yesterday that sometimes, you guys don't know that unless we tell you. So I'm telling you and letting you know that you should be fine with our budget due to the excess revenues we're going to be bringing in.
Thank you. That's a good point that we should definitely be keeping in mind.
And it's not
Especially
easy.
Yeah, especially when we start talking about a deficiency report at the board level, looking at departments that overspent, it will be important to note those departments that also increase their revenues to cover things like that. So thank you for that reminder. All right, is that it?
Yes.
You're
Thank
good?
you.
All right, thank you. All right, so probate, is anyone here from probate? I didn't think so. I think Devin had to leave. All right, so we're gonna, she did submit a report. To me, it looked like it was as expected. Her budget looks like it's as expected. So let's move on to number 9, district attorney update. Are you still with us?
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Now I think I'm the, anyway, it's me. I appreciate the fact that Stacy has all the stats in front of her because she is able to do that while I am not, because we have very different missions. But I have sent some documents to the board members about where my budget is at and what I have asked for in 2022 already. As far as what's happening in my current budget, I will dovetail, although again we have a different mission, what Stacy had to say about our jury trials. I mean, quite frankly, we are getting hammered as far as the dollars that are getting spent for jury trials. And while each trial may be, I think, very reasonably, I don't want to say priced, but the cost that we have to spend, I'm over is the bottom line. Because they are just what they are, and we are a reactive office. We get what we get, and defendants do what they do. They want to plead, they don't want to plead. Constitutional rights are in play. We have really nothing that we can do to try our cases and to try them to the best of our ability. So I'm asking for an increase. We had, my budget last year was $2,500. Right now, this minute, I am at almost $4,500, so I'm already over. So, and I don't know what to tell you other than I've really got nothing I can do about that. But I asked for an increase to $5,000, so I'm asking to double my $2,500 and hoping that next year is better than this year. I've also asked for, so when I have transcripts last year, the request for the dollars was $250. And my requests every year, again, are based on what we've done the prior years. Part of the issue now is that we're in this COVID land, or now post-COVID land. I do have a different perspective on why more cases are going to trial. I can tell you about those things if anyone cares. But the result is we are having more. The more jury trials we have, the more transcripts I have to order, right? Because if a defendant has ever been on the stand, or a state witness has ever been on the stand, I have to have a transcript of that so I can send it in discovery. It might help resolve the case, it might not, but if it doesn't help resolve the case and we go to trial, I have to have the transcript in order to impeach whatever witnesses, and for the defendant to be able to impeach whatever witnesses. And again, that's their right to confrontation. So trials go up, trial expenses go up, transcripts go up. This year, so I've asked for slightly more money this year than in years past for transcripts, basically a doubling, which goes from $250 to $500. The other thing that happened this year is we've had 2 cases. I always ask for $0 for lodging, always, because the bottom line is I've told all my people, don't go on any overnight trips to any kind of CLE classes or continuing ed classes, because we can't afford lodging and you're not going to get reimbursed for it, so go on day trips. So we've always asked for $0 for lodging. The problem this year has been 2 of our cases, jury trial cases, multi-day jury trial cases, had to be handled by special prosecutors. One involved a family member of a member of law enforcement, and that went to trial. And the other trial, we had a special prosecutor because it involved a member of law enforcement himself. Obviously, I've got a conflict. Obviously, I can't handle those cases. So what we do is we have to go to a special prosecutor. And so we have our special prosecutors, they come in, they prosecute the cases. They're not local, right? So they're staying over the night before because they have to be up and ready to roll about 7 o'clock in the morning. They have to stay in the evenings depending on what a jury's gonna do. So now we have lodging. So I've got a greater lodging expense than was budgeted this year, although I'm really not expecting that. I really hope that doesn't continue. I really hope that I don't have people whereby they're so close professionally to our office that we can't continue with that. So I did not ask for an increase in lodging. There's been a couple of places where we've asked for decreases, very few, because we do more electronic transfers of documents, and victims are more interested in getting documents by email and those kind of things. We don't have to print them up, we don't have to send them out, we don't have to do any of those kind of things. So, like I said, I can tell you about why there are more jury trials. I'll stay away from that for today unless anyone wants to know later or talk to me later. But of course, the biggest bump I've asked for in my budget, this does not come as a surprise to any of you, but I will reiterate it again. Once upon a time, some national folks decided they would push for what's called Marcy's Law. And Marcy's Law was a constitutional amendment that produced all kinds of extra rights, constitutional rights that victims have. It was sold for a number of years before it was actually passed. I mean, the information on the ballot was something like, do you believe in victims? Should they have more rights? And of course, everyone's going to say, we believe in victims, yay for more rights. The problem is that there's a huge financial impact of that for our office and offices across the state to comply with the constitutional mandates. That is, it's gone through the roof, and quite frankly, we pretty much have to double the amount of work that has to be done in response to the Marcy's Law, which is kind of colloquially known, the Marcy's Law constitutional amendment. Now, this was passed not last year, but in 2019. And I know I was asked last year, where's your request for an extra person? Because you've been telling us for a couple of years, Marcy's Law is going to have a financial impact. And my response for last year was, oh, I believe it's going to have a financial impact, but I want to see what that looks like. I want to see what it looks like for my office to be able to function with these new rights. And the bottom line is, it's a disaster. It creates so much work that my victim witness coordinator, who has the training and the experience and all that kind of stuff, she's working on weekends. She's taking victim Zoom calls on weekends. She's doing jury trials on well after hours, well into the evening. She's not getting paid for that. She's not doing anything like that, but she does it because she knows that people here need our help. It is ridiculous. It is unfair. It is untenable. And quite frankly, we cannot meet our constitutional requirements. And if anyone wants some additional information as to what exactly that means, I can certainly let them know either now or they want to contact me privately. So it's an unfunded mandate, of course. The state likes to do those, and that's just sort of what we're stuck with. So I did actually reach out to a number of other counties who had 4 or less attorneys in their offices. So some of them had 1, some had 2, some of them had 1.5, some of them had 4. And of course, we have 1.8 attorneys in this office. So I was wondering how the Marcy's Law was impacting their offices. And what I found was, I think the reason we're getting hammered so hard is because our office is really actually understaffed. Now, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to say that I need more staff because I need more staff. I think that I gave up a member of staff, my staff, a couple of years ago in order to meet my budget. But so that's where the hammering has really come, is we have to comply with the constitutional rights that the victim has. They also plugged in a whole bunch of extra rights under Chapter 950, which is a statute that has previously legislated the rights that victims have. So I've talked to Clint about this. I've talked to all of you about this. This is the way it is. And here is the price tag. So what we did was add a position that is consistent with the victim witness person who we have now, who is Andrea, and then had a small bump in her salary as to make her a lead, right? So she is basically the the constitutional compliance officer to go along with her having to oversee another person who has a very similar job. So the magic number for everything, which includes salaries, the retirement, the dental insurance, health insurance, all those kind of things, is $72,000. And that's for the entirety of that position. There's a small bump on Andrea's position, which I think goes up another $2,000. But what I want to say about that is, although my office is not a revenue generating office, we do get reimbursement for the state for what our victim witness person does. Part of her salary, part of her insurance is repaid to the county at a certain percentage. That fluctuates. Sometimes it's $25,000, sometimes it's $40,000. It really fluctuates over the year. There are different years. They're trying to find a more consistent funding source. So we do get monies in return for her job. I'd also note that for the uninitiated, I'm starting to sound like one of our former supervisors. We had a half-time staff person who worked 17 hours a week. That is the staff person who I let go by the by in order to meet our budget direction from the county board. Her 17 hours were divided to the 2 staff members that we had remaining. They were both at 35 hours. So we took away, I lost 17 hours, excuse me, and then each of the other staff members got 5. So we lost 7, and that kind of thing. But victim witness persons can only be reimbursed for the things that they're doing under the heading of victim witness procedures and work and those kind of things. The extra 5 hours that Andrea, our victim witness person, got were not reimbursable because they were generally office duties that came from our person on the position that was reduced. So with this request and how this would work is now the 5 hours, I know it's not a lot, we're trying to do what we can, to Andrea, now that would all be reimbursable, which means there's a higher percentage that she'll get back on hers. There will be a higher percentage of monies that come back on her insurance and her retirement and all those kind of things. So we will get a bump in the monies that come back from the state for this change and increase in a victim witness person in my office. we're currently requesting from the state that we get some of the secondary position partially reimbursed. They're not going to reimburse us for squat on that one. I mean, that's the reality, but we will be getting some additional monies from the state for making Andrea the lead and having another person coming in as basically her same position. So the grand total is once upon a time last year, and I sent all these documents. Actually, I don't have very many documents because I'm a very small office. Was last year, the budget was $131,000 and change. This year, the request is $212,000 to meet that mandate. It's a difference of about $81,000. 74 of it is related to the staffing levels. That leaves us with $6,000, and the $6,000 all goes towards all the different trial components that I talked about before. So, Clint, so that's what I have to say about my budget. Other than the budget, it's a business as usual here, except for the increase in jury trials, the increase in cases, the increase in all those kind of things, which we have to react to, a change in the law. But other than that, you know, just business as usual. You can come down and see my office, and we're knee-deep in sex assaults and everything else. So, Clint, do you have anything else to add to my budget information?
I think that Mr. McGuire might be using his thing. I'm not sure Mr. Langrick is on, but from the finance meeting, the administrator did in his presentation to finance, he did recommend that we fully fund the position that you asked for, or the increases that you asked for. So, I mean, and other things didn't make his recommendation. So we do know that he did put in those, understanding that it's a mandated thing that you don't have a choice about. So.
Right, and I know on his presentation he also did include, as he did to the other departments, the ramifications of not including those provisions in the different budgets. So, in any event, I was at the Personnel and Finance Committee. I'm sorry for talking so long about this. Everyone's happy to know about budgets, sort of, and except for me. But I wanted to keep you all in the loop as to where we are. I've talked about it a lot in the past, and I kind of wanted to close the loop on what's happening with it currently.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it stinks. I mean, the budget is not pretty and not fun for us to deal with, but it is what it is, and so we just have to move forward. So. And
I appreciate the work that you guys do, because I couldn't do it. If I could do it, I wouldn't even like it. So I appreciate the work that you guys do on it, because I know that you have a thankless and difficult job.
Yeah, the budget's definitely not fun. All right. Any questions for the district attorney? Otherwise, we'll move on to item. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll move on to item number 10, approve monthly invoices and other sheriff department reports. Sheriff Porter, which I should say, I think our last meeting you were still chief deputy, and so I will officially say congratulations for being appointed as our new sheriff. I'm incredibly pleased with the decision the governor made. So
thank you. And I guess I would like to start off with, we'll just say other sheriff's department reports, and I think more congratulations are in order. So I finally have wrapped up my search for a new chief deputy, and I'm very happy to announce, and he's been joining us for this meeting, Chief Deputy Aaron Wallace, who is going to be working with me and helping me drive this department into the future in a direction we want it to go. Aaron has been with the department since 2008. I've worked with him, alongside him, for a long time. He's probably one of the most driven and motivated people I know, and I think he shares a lot of the desires I have with the direction for the department. He's made he's went out of his own way to try and engage the department more in the community by planning sporting events where the community's invited to come and raising money for the special response team. And I'm really excited to have him on board as my chief deputy.
Thanks, Clay. Appreciate that.
I wondered if it was you, since you were hanging out at the meeting. I thought that was perhaps the reason, because deputies don't always just hang out at LEJC meetings for fun. So, so welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Guess I'm excited for this opportunity, and I look forward to the future and seeing what Clay and I can do with the department and for the county.
Great. So are Sheriff Porter, are you presenting your budget and invoices and stuff, or are you going to pass that off to Chief Wallace?
Nope. I don't believe he's got a copy in front of him right now. So we'll take care of that.
Hot seat today.
Yeah, we won't break him in on that today.
All right.
Has everybody had a chance to review the invoices?
Yeah, the only question I had was that our prisoner medical bills were a little up this month, at least from what I remember from the past. Was there something going on, or it was just normal stuff going on?
I'm gonna say that we've had some hospitalizations recently, and that probably is what's factoring into that number.
Have we had any COVID?
No.
Okay, all right. That was my first thought was, oh no, please tell me we don't have COVID in the jail.
Knock on wood, we have not had that in the jail yet. So
okay.
Yep. Other than that, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary on the invoices. Monthly numbers for August, we had 53 bookings, 25 is our average population, 188 monthly complaints. That's kind of still tracking where it's been. 45 citation issued, 14 civil process served, and the average number on electronic monitoring has been 6. Dispatch handled 392 calls for service, 98 calls for EMS, and 64 calls for the police department.
I have one other question. So at our last meeting, we did discuss briefly talking to our health officer, Rose, about what, if anything, we might want to implement in the jail as far as trying to keep the Delta variant out of the jail. Did you guys talk to her at all, or can we talk to her now that it's definitely ramping up in our county?
Yeah, and my apologies for that. I have not spoken to her, but
Well,
I
had a lot on your plate the last month, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's still irrelevant. I mean, I just saw the report from our HHS that the numbers are going up again in our county. So we probably should just make sure that we're doing what we can do to keep it out of the jail.
Okay. I guess an additional sheriff's department reports, and it's kind of going to tie into the next item, but I just want to say I've had 2 resignations since our last meeting. 1 jail and 1 patrol. Our jailers, at this point, it's one of our more senior jailers, and a wonderful employee, and she's leaving us. And on the patrol side is one of our most senior patrol deputies with 18 years of experience with the department, and gonna feel a big loss from each of them going. So I know we've had a lot of discussions on what we can do to try and retain employees, and I kind of wish I would have, but I didn't include anything to discuss on that on this agenda. But I think in future agendas we need to revisit what we can do. Both of these people are leaving and they're going to the private industry, and not going to continue in law enforcement, or at least not intending to continue in law enforcement. And I think that's just the way it is right now. We have such a competitive job market. If you want a new job, there's a job out there for you. You just got to go get it. So.
Did you do exit interviews with them?
I did. So the patrol deputy, that's a more recent resignation. I've not had an exit interview returned on that. I do have one back from my jailer dispatcher though. She filled one out and had it back to me rather quickly, and I'm happy to email and share those with you guys if you'd like to see them.
I think that we potentially could be talking about, like you said, we could put it on another agenda to talk about what's been said in exit interviews and what we need to think about trying to do to address what concerns are brought up, and what, if anything, we can do to address. I mean, it's going to be hard to compete with some of the private pay that's out there right now. But
I think one of the resounding things that always keeps, whether it's written down in an exit interview or it's what's discussed word of mouth, is insurance. I think insurance means a lot more to people than it's probably given it credit for. Pay is certainly one thing, but that insurance is huge too.
okay, yeah, I think let's put that on the next agenda and discuss insurance, and because I'm really curious about that too, like what you're hearing from employees as to what they want and what it is they don't like about what we have. So that kind of information I think would be really helpful, especially since I know well, our I don't know if you know this, but our insurance this year, they jacked up rates 16%. 16%. Don't we all wish we could get a 16% raise every year?
Yeah.
So and that's for the kind of insurance we have now, which people don't necessarily like. So yeah, I think that's something, let's put that on the next agenda. Were either of these resignations, because you have mentioned in the past that you anticipated there would be some resignations before the end of the year, are either one of these ones that you saw coming? So there's potentially even more.
Yeah.
Then, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so to fill the patrol position, are you thinking that you might go to the list of interviewees we just did?
So, and actually to further follow up on, I guess, on my report, and I believe since every one of them has been since our last meeting, if I'm not mistaken, I have hired 3 people. I hired Isaac Gerber, James Tucker, which were both casual employees. Actually, all my hires were prior casual employees. So Isaac Gerber, James Tucker, and Ellie Kinnison. I've hired all 3 of them. Ellie is still attending the academy, and so we're going to pay her to complete the academy, and she'll start field training with us in November. But what I'm kind of thinking is that I may bring in the between now and the next meeting, I may call you guys back for a special meeting if we can do that again and re-interview a new top 5. Some of them might be carryovers from the last interview. Well, 2 of them will be, but I'll bring you 3 new people to meet and evaluate.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think we need to, I think we don't want to wait. So yeah, scheduling a meeting as soon as possible would probably be in everyone's best interest, right? Okay. Anything else from your reports?
Nope, I think that's everything.
Do we need to, I think we need to make a motion to accept the bills, to pay the bills?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll move.
All right, motion by Cosgrove. I'll second. Any discussion on the bills?
I'll second.
Oh, all right, thank you. We can have a second by McGuire. All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of paying the bills signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, bills are paid. All right, so item number 11 is the resignation of jailer dispatcher, permission to hire this jailer dispatcher as a casual.
So, and the jailer dispatcher, I guess we're discussing is Kyla Kelter. And she's been with the department now, I want to say 6 years, 5 years or 6 years. And she came to my office and handed me her resignation, and pretty well in the same conversation, discussed her willingness to come back and work casual as a jailer dispatcher for us. She's leaving us and going to SNS Cycle, where she's going to work, but she is still interested in coming and helping us where we need help. And so I guess I'd ask permission. Her resignation isn't as of effect yet. I think her last day might be this weekend. But
I think it was the 21st, boy.
Okay. No, I think that was Liz's. the Kyla's, I think is Sunday, Amber told me. So this would allow us, I just, permission to have her come back as a casual. I just have Amber do a status change where, basically her last day as full-time will become her first day as casual for us.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to, because I assume you want us to make a motion on this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I would entertain a motion to hire Kyla Kelter as a casual jailer dispatcher.
So moved, Dan.
I'll
All
second.
right. Second by Cosgrove. All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, go ahead, please, and tell her thank you. I think that's a very helpful thing for her to do for us.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
All right, item number 12, approval for insurance squad payment. And you had a resolution, I think, attached to this as well, right?
I did have a resolution, and I now that I'm reading it, I have one edit I would suggest we make to it already. Has everybody had a chance to look at the resolution? And if not, I can read it.
I did. I don't know about,
I read it.
I haven't read it.
you want to just summarize it, Clay?
So yeah, the summary would be, we finally received the insurance check for our totaled Squad 9. And that check was deposited into the line I have listed in Fund 17, which it is, from my understanding from Derek, is a line that's designated for basically insurance monies to come into. So, and it's under the sheriff's authority. And then, so we have a check that was deposited in the amount of $30,196.14. And that was for the insurance portion for the squad minus the deductible amount. So what I'm asking for is for that amount, for that check, or for that amount, and the amount of $4,769.36 to be combined in one check to fill back dealerships to purchase a squad that's been sitting on their lot for probably a month and a half, 2 months now, which was a squad that I had ordered. So a total amount of $34,969.50. And that basically this resolution will allow me to have that check wrote from the insurance money and then from our insurance claim line in our budget.
What's the edit you're wanting to make?
Yeah.
What was that?
What's the edit that you wanted to change on the?
Under my now therefore be it resolved, I must have missed this. It says 2021 Ford Interceptor utility body to replace the total Squad 9. I just take strike body from that.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's just a typo, so that's fine. And the 4,769, remind me, that's going to come from our insurance line on in your budget?
Yes. Yep.
And that money is in there. That won't make that line item go over.
Correct. Last time I looked, it was in there. And that was when I wrote this. So.
And is that the deductible? Is that the insurance deductible line item that we have, or what is this line item?
I believe it's the insurance deductible line item. Yeah, Amber's nodding her head yes at me.
Okay. So they deducted the deductible from the total they gave us, but we still need that money back to actually pay for the new vehicle. And this one is not a truck. This is an actual SUV, or what is this?
Right. This is a Ford Explorer for all intents.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'll move to approve with the edit of striking body.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Dan.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So I assume you'll have to send this on to finance and then on to the board, or can it go straight to the board?
My understanding from discussing with Clint and Derek is it can go straight to the board.
Straight to the board? Okay.
Yep.
All right. All right. That brings us to radio tower project updates. So the first thing, I guess I'm going to be talking to Sean later, so I will make sure that it gets on the next finance agenda. I think we were thinking it was going to be on the last finance agenda, but it didn't get there. So we'll, I don't know if Barb is still on, did you confirm? Did you confirm if the next finance date works for the True North people?
I'm
Mike?
not doing that until I get confirmation. It's on there because I've arranged for them to
No,
be there
okay.
twice, and I won't do that again.
Right,
When I
I
get
agree.
confirmation, and the problem is, right now, we're only a week away from that, and I'm worried that it won't work for them, and then we'll have to postpone again. I'm kind of in a catch-22.
Right. I will talk to Sean today and make sure that it can be on the agenda so that you can contact them today and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then why don't we go ahead and schedule it for the next one, and then I will make sure it gets on the agenda for, it would be the first week in October, right? Finance
No.
meeting.
So wait a minute, am I doing it for the 17th so we can put it on the county board on the 21st? Or are we
That would
not?
be ideal. That would be ideal, but I'm just saying if that doesn't work for Mike, then it would have to go to the first week in October.
Okay, so I will send an email to Mike saying the 17th.
Well, why don't you, as soon as we get off, I will contact Sean and just clarify and make sure that it absolutely can be on there. And then I will let you know so you can talk to Mike.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other updates that we need to talk about with that? I think we took all the action, and you did say, well, I guess we could just say for everyone else's benefit, you told me that Mike is addressing all of the concerns we got in writing and at that meeting from the users, including what our current radio coverage is, because everyone seemed pretty convinced that the numbers he gave us for our current coverage were not accurate, that it's much worse than what he said, right?
Yeah, did I? And if I did not, I apologize, and I will do so immediately. I have an email that did address that. Did I not forward that?
Maybe I missed it. I know that you sent me, you told me in an email yesterday or the day before that he addressed all of those concerns.
I might not have forwarded that one. I thought I did, and if I didn't, I apologize because I truly meant to.
Yeah, that
So
would
let
be
me
helpful, but
I'm making a note, and I'll go look for it right away.
okay. Did anyone else get that email? I didn't see an email where all those questions were addressed. I remember reading all of the concerns that came in from the different people that were at the meeting last time.
And just, I know he addressed you specifically. That's why I thought I had forwarded it.
Yeah, and I could have missed it. I get so many emails. Honestly, I could have missed it, but
Well, and
I'll look too.
All right, and
All
I
right.
start to send things and forget.
Barb,
Mhm.
did we ever get a response from him regarding our question on an analog system as well?
Yes, that I think is in the same one. And
Okay.
his comment was the vendors will bid, and we can make the request that when the RFP goes out, that they have both in there for consideration. They have digital and analog both. So when their bids come in, we can see both and make that decision at that time. So we have full options on the plate.
Okay, and then I don't know if Melissa and the committee knows, but we had another conversation. We asked to see what the numbers and the maps would look like with a analog system that would match option 3. And so we're just, that's what I was asking. I haven't seen the response back on that, so.
Okay, yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't remember seeing that conversation.
I don't think that he sent us back a drawing of that. I think that his response was, when you put your RFP out, have them put both in there and have the vendors send that back. And I think that that's probably legitimate. Because he said that the map probably wouldn't look a lot different from what he did, and the coverage would look about the same, but the clarity wouldn't be there.
So I'm assuming that the reasoning behind asking for the analog is just because, I mean, like Grant County decided not to go digital right now. Is that kind of your thinking, is just to see what the cost differences would be?
Right, because your
Well-
subscriber equipment's like almost $2 million. I think it's 1.7. And so of that $7 million, 1.7 is subscriber equipment. And if we do not need to incur that cost, that brings,
Saves a lot of money. Yeah.
you know, so do we want to consider that? Because what Mike and I also spoke to, I'll be completely upfront, I spoke to Baycom and said, do you see a mandate coming that's going to force us to go digital? Because I know that there are a couple counties, apparently Vernon County didn't go digital, and neither is Grant. Is there something coming that if we do this today, in 4 years, we're going to kick ourselves for not going digital? And he said, no, there's nothing coming that's mandating us to go digital
That he knows of.
that they are aware of. Now,
Yeah, right.
my
Yeah.
crystal ball broke. I really don't have that. They don't see anything coming that says we have to. That's a decision we have to make.
Does the digital interact with cellular devices better at all, or does that make no difference whatsoever? It's completely separate and matter one way or the other.
It's separate. They're on different waves.
Okay. Okay.
And
All
I
right.
think the other thought too is with the analog. So digital is crystal clear until it's not, and then you have nothing. Where analog, your quality, your transmission quality might degrade, but you still may be able to hear things through the static and through the noise. So I think that was also part of the thought, is that, digital is awesome, it's crystal clear, but once you lose signal, you get nothing. And with an analog, you still get
There's a
bits and
chance to
pieces.
hear squeaks and squawks. Yeah. So
You
How
get
do-
5 words out of 10, and is that enough to catch the message? Where digital, you'll get nothing.
Yeah.
right. So my question, I guess, for you guys is, has anyone talked to Grant or Vernon to find out why they made the decision not to go digital?
I
No.
have not, but I'm willing to do so.
I think that would be really helpful information for us moving, before we make a decision. I do think it would be helpful just to understand what led to their decision not to, because it seemed to me, honestly, I feel like even though no one is saying we're going to be forced to move to digital, I mean, just with the way they force us into technology all the time, it wouldn't surprise me if something comes down the pike relatively soon where it says we want everyone to be digital for whatever reason. So I would be hesitant, because I don't want to be having to make another $7 million investment in 5 years. We wouldn't even have the 7 million paid off yet. So I would be very interested to know why they did not move forward with digital.
I know that Grant's was 15 million.
And it was simply, what was it with analog then? So 15 million was digital, or 15 million
Yeah.
was analog?
No, 15 million was digital, and that's why they didn't do it. Now, I don't know what the cost was for analog. I can find out.
So it was strictly costs related.
But it was 100% cost. And I do know that much, because they couldn't do the 15 million. That was, I read it in their notes. They have minutes online, and that's where I got that from.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll take a look.
Yeah, if you just, it was a simple Google for Grant County, Wisconsin radio project. And that's where I had gotten it. But I know that I had read somewhere it was a 15 million, and they didn't find the value in it. And for 15 million, I can't say I'd feel much different. That's a lot of money.
Well, 7 million is, I mean, they at least have, they have a lot bigger tax base than we do. So proportionally speaking, I don't think that number is different than our 7 million.
And that's why Clay and I had the conversation about, do we need to go to digital? I mean, but even the conversation that I had about analog with Baycom and with Mike was, that's fine if you choose to stay analog, but don't just assume that the cost is going to automatically drop. We have to remember that the numbers that we saw were not quotes. They were not even from a vendor. They were placeholders from the consultant.
Right.
And we can't get hung up that this is the amount of money we're going to spend. It was a budgetary estimate only. And what I've been cautioned by both is don't use that as something to base your decisions on.
Well, we'll
You know,
use the
there
RFPs
it's
to base it.
guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The RFPs are where we'll get our specific information.
correct.
I definitely think we want to ask for an analog option though, just as from a budgetary standpoint. I hate to
Yeah.
make a decision solely on money. I mean, like Clay said, I mean, if we think there's value in not having a great signal, but at least having something versus zero when it cuts off with digital, that's one thing. But I would hate to have to make this decision solely on finance. I want a system that works, right? I mean, we don't want to spend any money unless this thing is going to work.
Exactly. Because
So-
I don't really want my name associated when it comes down the line and nothing works. That's pride in what you do, and you really don't want that. And I think that all of us feel that way. We want to put forth a good system that's gonna, that's gonna work for our officers and our first responders.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'm not anxious to, increase everybody's taxes to pay for a system that we're not happy with. So, okay. So, like I said, I will contact Sean and I will get in touch with you, Barb, to make sure we can
Okay.
get it on the agenda. And then if Mike can make it to that one, great. And if not, we'll have to plan on the first Tuesday in October as the next. And I'll confirm both of those dates. And then once you tell me which one Mike can make, I'll make sure it with Sean that it's on.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on radio tower?
Just, that I, probably want to reiterate that we need to make sure we, talk with our other supervisors and make sure everybody understands the importance of this project and that we can't let it die this time. It's got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. So on that note, actually, I was thinking that, I'm assuming once it goes to finance that we're going to go to the board to start educating them on this, which is why I was really anxious to make sure we had good solid numbers on what our current system can do and can't do. So that we're presenting accurate information about how bad it really is. And it's not just us saying it's bad, but saying it's bad with numbers to back us up, I think will really be helpful. But I do think we will need to have Mike make a presentation to the board and have you speak and probably invite the users, especially the ones that showed up to that last meeting. I think they were really helpful in providing questions and concerns. So making sure that that's all addressed, I think is going to be really important in getting the board on board. Huh? So, all right. So yeah, let's make sure that we keep that I would say that we want to, as soon as we have this on the county board agenda, we want to make sure that we can get as much support in that room as possible on that day. So that we can have a really good discussion about why this is important. And even if the money numbers are, the money is just an estimate, I think we need people to understand that it's going to be a lot of money but we need to do it. So, okay. All right. Item number 14, mapping radio system and squad updates. I didn't see a squad mileage thing in there this time. Did I miss it?
No, you didn't miss it. It's not there. I didn't get that one finished up this week. So, and I can certainly drop it in there later if you guys would like to see that.
I was just curious if we, where we're at as far as squads that are on the road and working.
I'll what I can do for you then is I'll wrap that up this week or early next week and drop that in there for you guys to see if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to create busy work, but I actually do reference that spreadsheet whenever I'm having to defend how many squad cars you guys asked for. So it's it's a great visual guide. You look in there and you look at all the ones in red and it's like, this is why we're asking for vehicles. It's not like they're just wanting frivolous vehicles. We have 5 vehicles that are on higher mileage than they should have, or out of service, and yada, yada, yada. So I don't, I'm not trying to like make you do busy work. I do think that spreadsheet is incredibly helpful.
Okay. No, I will get it. I'll get it dropped in there, and I'll send an email out when it's in there.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
assuming it looks pretty much the same as last month, but maybe
It
there's some
does.
differences. Are you concerned about being able to get the two trucks? I just keep hearing about how new
Oh.
vehicles are almost impossible to find, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, so I am concerned about our 2022 purchases. The truck that I was discussing ordering for myself, they stopped taking orders for 2021. So I just asked, is 2022 going to be the same price, or is it going to be different? And I haven't got that answer yet. So that may have to go out for rebidding. I'm guessing at this point.
My understanding is there's no chips for anything, so nobody's making new vehicles, and they're shutting plants down and yada, yada, yada. So
yeah, my understanding is that currently for 2022, Chrysler is the only company that's taking orders for 2022.
Yeah,
Everybody else is
GM is going to start October 1.
are they? Okay.
Yeah.
So
it might be an interesting
crazy.
year to get cars.
Yeah.
I mean, we may not be able to get them and may have to delay or whatever, but did we get, so we have all our 2021 vehicles?
We have all the ones that we have one on our lot, and we have one at Philback's. So the two that we ordered this year already are here. But just got to get the one paid for.
What about the third? I thought we were doing two, and then one was an insurance. So there was 3 total vehicles.
So yeah, so I was going to order that one to replace the squad one.
So the truck, the truck you're talking about, and now you're not going to be able to do that. Okay, so you're not going to be spending all your 2021 allocated new car.
No.
Was that 175 or whichever 92, whatever fund that was.
Yeah, and we do have a little bit of time to spend that money, and I don't think we'll run into a problem. It's just going to take us longer than anticipated.
Is that the one with the deadline of 2022, like fall of 22, or does it go into 23?
I think they all go for, I think the Fund 75 is 23, and I guess I'm not sure on the deadline on Fund 92. I thought
we should verify.
I thought they were all like a 2 or 3 year.
I was thinking 2 years on the short-term borrowing, because Fund 75 was not short-term borrowing. That was a 3-year one.
Okay.
I think you should confirm with Administrator Langrick the length on our short-term borrowing, whether it's a year or 2 years. It might be 2 years.
I will do that.
Just to make sure, because I mean, I don't know what we could do, but because if you can't get a vehicle, you can't get a vehicle. I'm not quite sure how, Yeah. But maybe we do something else. I don't know. Just confirm that we do have time to money. Okay. Anything else on item number 14?
Radio system's been bumping along. No, not at least not that I've been made aware of, no failures in the last month. So again, we just kind of reiterate the things I've discussed before, is that our radio councils, dispatch councils are like everything else, kind of on their last leg, but probably I'd be less shocked if we had a failure there.
You've had the last 2 weekends, I think we've been contacted with problems on the council.
And I guess that's the first I've been made aware of those, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not a surprise that it's just sort of keeping our fingers crossed here that nothing catastrophic happens until we can get this project going. Okay, anything else with that?
Nothing else.
All right, so future agenda items. So we'll put the Partners for Prevention back on the agenda. And then I think we talked about putting on exit interview / employee, insurance concerns and employee retainment. I guess you could just generally call it employee retention. discussion as our one of our next future agenda items. Does anyone have anything else? All right, so with that, item number 16 is adjournment.
Move.
All right, motion by Cosgrove.
Second.
All right,
McGuire.
second by McGuire. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Clay, are you going to contact us about setting up interview times?
Yes, I will. I